So anyway, so I get up. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I got up. I went to the bedroom, turned on the lights, and to get something. I have no idea why I was even doing that, but the lights wouldn't come on. And then I went over to where the breaker box is, um, which is odd because there's no lights, but yet I'm still able to see. And and the breaker box wasn't where it's supposed to be. It's on another wall, and the colors there of the wall and the panel. And I opened up the panel, and it was just wood. And I went, "What?" Then at that moment, the house started vibrating. Had a fighter jet flying over the house, and so I went into. I have a kitchen window that looks out, looks east, and to see what the heck's going on. And this fighter jet just flew over almost rooftop. I have a neighbor that has a two-story house, and it just skimmed the top of the trees, his trees, and the house. But it shook the whole house. The windows shook, the whole house shook, and and I shut the curtain, and then I could hear. I started hearing everything at once. But I could hear the pilots talking, and it's like they just flew over. And how can I hear them? Anyway, but I'm hearing them.
Now,
And
were these American pilots, or at this point?
yeah,
Okay.
these were the good guys, I guess, because they were in panic or in really frustrated because they were being overrun. That there was more of them than there was of us. And and then while that happened, I'm standing in front of my front door, and but I can hear a loudspeaker outside, and telling people, to come out, and I can sense that um, they were taking the neighborhood and loading them up into cattle trucks, and so they're wanting everybody to come out. And then I could feel that it was pretty evil feeling too.
Now, you
Um,
were saying that these cattle trucks were actually military trucks that you called.
well, that's what came. I didn't see anybody. Um, I didn't see anybody or the cattle trucks. I just knew that that's what was out there. I just felt that that's what was out there, and that's what they were doing. But yet I was surrounded, and because I could hear them, and then another uh, Air Force, or what do they call them, B-52 transport plane, was coming over, and that really just started shaking the house. And so I went back to the kitchen window and opened it up, and I could see the ass end of it, and with the cargo door open, and looked like parachutes coming out. I thought, it'd be troops or something. But then the next thing that I saw was a drone, and the drone came down, uh, swooped down, and went right in front of my window, and the left side of it, and it was weird looking. It just had a head that was like shaped like a dog, and it had a red eye, an evil red eye, and it was just staring at me, and I felt the evil of it. And so I shut the curtain again, and then I went, stood in front of the door, and my door was shaking, and my door opens inward, but it was like being pulled outwards, but there was like an inch gap all the way around the threshold. And so I went up and I pulled it in. It was like trying to be pulled out. It wasn't, completely going out because of the hinges, the door jamb. but I pulled it in. I tried, and I was actually scared, and I just wanted to quietly lock the door, and it wouldn't lock because there's too much of a gap there. The deadbolt wouldn't enter into the lock or the deadbolt, and so I just left it, and I just walked back a few spaces, and then I could just feel that I'm being surrounded, and that they're about ready to come in and to get me. And so I started to pray, and I started to pray the Lord's Prayer, and I immediately went, no, that's going to take too long, and it just went out in tongues, really, really powerful tongues, and and I amazed myself. It's like, gosh, you didn't pray like that this morning, in my prayer walk, and but anyway, and then I woke up, and and when I woke up, I was paralyzed. I mean, in other words, I could have moved. I could have, woke up and moved, and I wanted to jump up and see, but I still felt that, I was waiting for them to come in through the door, and I was just laying there staring in on the leather couch, and my eyes wide open, and I'm not hearing anything. It's quiet. And then I flipped over, and Tonka was laying on the floor sleeping, and it was all peaceful. I went, oh, Lord, what the heck? I mean, that was so real. The realness of it, the pressure, the vibrations, the sounds, everything was, the colors, everything was just, I was literally there. And I just sat up and just was in awe, like that, what the heck just happened? And so anyway, that's what happened.
And you said that you could hear, like, was it bombing or whatever, that it sounded like downtown was really getting hit?
Yeah, it was like there was definitely like a bombing going on, but it was more feeling the concussion of it. That's what was really rattling the house. But yeah, it was like, yeah, downtown was being being invaded bad, being blown up, and I'm feeling the concussion of it, because that's why the door was the way it was.
You're not too far from
No,
downtown.
I'm only like 6 blocks away,
Right.
and I'm
And
downtown.
you said that the jet fighters were being overwhelmed by other aircraft?
Well, yeah, it was like, I don't know if they were chasing other fighters or they were being chased, but I could hear them talking, and they were overwhelmed that there's not enough of them. There's more of them than there was of them. Like I had a feeling that, like, our government made sure, or our Air Force was either grounded or was sent somewhere else, and leaving us, not protected. But yet they were out there, and anyway, but they were under distress. Like they knew that they were outnumbered.
Yeah.
And what I felt was that the people that were out there were not good people, and that
You said
they
they
were just
spoke
hurting.
English, that were gathering people in the cattle trucks to take them somewhere. You said that they spoke English. So
Yeah, it was English.
did you see them, or you're talking about things you heard?
No, it was just hearing. The only thing I seen was the fighter jets and the big carrier, the transport plane, and the drone. That's all I've seen, but that I could, that I knew they were out there.
Well,
I could
who
feel
did
them.
the transport plane, who did that belong to? Did that belong to
Well,
American?
it looked American, but yet it had red on it. I remember seeing the red. I don't know if it was a star or what, but it was just a small emblem on the side of it, and the rest of it was like a greenish color or dark green, and
Okay.
and the
And
fighter
that,
jet was gray, you know, or whitish gray or whatever. And I'm not sure if it was ours or theirs. I just know that the pilots were speaking English and that they were in distress because they were outnumbered.
okay. And where you're located is, we were talking about this, that where you are located, which is in, Boise, Idaho, that there's Gowan Field, and there's also an airport there. And Gowan Field is, what is Gowan Field again? I mean, they receive cargo planes there. I've seen a huge, I don't know what kind of plane it was, but it's a huge military plane. It's just,
Yeah, big as Air Force One.
yeah.
I mean, Air Force One's been there many times, and I've seen big cargo planes land there
Yeah,
and
there was
circle around.
I think it was a FedEx or a UPS that crashed, cargo airplane that crashed a few years ago there, at Gowan Field, because it's a sort of a,
Gowan Field is just military, isn't it? I thought it was a military base.
No, it's a military base. It's a forest fire department right all in with it, and plus it's our airport
it
all
has
mixed together. So
yeah, it has an airport strip, an airplane strip, and then we have the international airport, which is at Boise, but then 50 miles from Boise
36
is
miles.
how far?
36 miles.
So 36 miles is a Mountain Home Air Force Base, where the Israeli fighters came in and landed and did maneuvers and stuff over that whole, because Nevada is just, that part of Idaho and Nevada is huge,
Yeah, bombing ranges and that's where they do all their pretend battles and all
yeah.
that.
So
Same thing with the tanks.
I'm not surprised. We were talking about the Fat Boy was, well, explain what that was, because that's out of my league of stuff. But
Yeah, that Dan Porter's dad was stationed here in Boise in the Air Force, and he was actually the pilot that flew out Fat Boy, which was actually not all of that. It wasn't the bomb itself. It was just what started in Colorado, the mixture of things, and then it was transported here, and some other things was added. Then they transported it to Washington, where they finished, Washington to get some more put of it, and then it went to Nevada to be completely put together, and then it was flown out. And Dan's dad actually flew it. I saw a picture of him standing in front of the Enola Gay and with all the other crew members, and yeah, it definitely looked like you look like your dad, Dan. And so anyway, he was all proud of that.
but
Yeah,
anyway, that was the bomb that hit which one? Hiroshima or Nagasaki?
Hiroshima, I do believe.
Yeah. So this dream, and because I had my series of dreams that you can find on my website just for the recording's sake, it's called America's Troubles. 1989 through, or 1982 through 1989 at New Wine Pouring, which some of the elements of what he's talking about, I had in my dream 30, well, almost 40 years ago now. And one of them is the people that are evacuating other people are English speaking, but they don't feel like they're American. They, you know, they look like, just how Americans have different people across the board and speak English. That's the same with the dream that I had, people getting, evacuating other people in these trucks that he was describing. But my experience was over there in the Seattle area. But in in uh in my dream, and when I wrote it down, I called it the Great Evacuation, because the evacuation took place from the city that I know in the area of Seattle all the way over to Idaho. So it could be these two towns. I'm not saying everything in between, but I did see an American jet fighter flying down the Pacific West Coast, towards California. Like, not a whole bunch of them, but they were going, one right after the other. And this was in 1982 when I first started having those dreams that involved concentration camps and all that. So, but those people that he's talking about, they're not, they're kind of, they're not really enemies to per se, but it wasn't good. And it wasn't good getting caught up in their dragnet and taken away. You were better off, in my dreams, you were better off to evacuate yourself. And that's what I've been telling people from the very beginning, like, evacuate yourself when things start happening. Don't wait for the government to evacuate you, because eventually they're going to start separating people, um, sorting through people and separating those that are beast friendly from the ones that are not friendly, beast unfriendly, the beast system unfriendly. So, did you get a feel of how many? You said there was only a few American fighters. That was your
Oh,
feeling.
what I felt was complete surround. I mean, a lot of unfriendly foes out there, and probably more than the people in my neighborhood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, I sent them right all around the house, the neighborhood, in my yard, ready to come in. And it was like, well, no problem. I mean, I don't know what good a lock on my door would have done, but anyway,
So yeah,
I prayed and woke up.
it seems to me like, if this is something that is futuristic, that they're wanting to, I mean, who wouldn't want that piece of land with the airports in close proximity, and the Air Force Base, and Gowan Field, and the Boise International Airport. It is an international airport, right? Some airports are not, others are considered an international
Well, it's not
airport.
international, but
Well, I know it doesn't, I think though, doesn't it? I know there's smaller airports that they don't claim to be international, but I, I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. Um, but it's a connector in that part of the country, because of course Seattle, Portland, Oregon, LAX, and all
well,
of those,
yeah,
are
you
gateway.
can go to New York, you can go to Florida, you can
Yeah,
go to Hawaii. Well, I
yeah.
guess it would be.
So Seattle and LAX, and those are gateway airports.
Those are
People,
big ones.
yeah, those are the big ones. Atlanta, all that. So, um, yeah, if they were going to invade our country, that would be a spot. I can see that, you know. So because Boise is in the middle of it's the largest city between, I would say, between Los Angeles, well, of course, the bigger cities, but I mean, in California, but between California and upstate Oregon, I mean, upstate Washington, there's Boise, and that's pretty much it, with the Air Force Base and the Gowan Field um,
And all the
area.
flatland, that goes into
Right.
Nevada, clear down to the border and Arizona and that. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the dream that I had, I saw, of course, I told you I saw that pinpoint up in the sky that was a rocket that was arching down towards the Air Force Base. And that was, again, like 40 years ago when I seen that. And then that thermal wind and. So anyway, I believe that God gives us dreams to pray, and we need to pray. So we're going to pray over that dream and ask the Lord what he wants us to do with it. Um, and just go from there. Have you shared your
Yeah.
dream with your church yet, or?
Um, no, I haven't had a chance. I shared something else about when I had that heat stroke and almost saw death,
Mm-hmm.
and shared that, but didn't get into detail of it. They wanted to, but things going on. Probably this week. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not
Well,
gonna.
praise the Lord. We're gonna lift that dream up in prayer. And like I said, it's similar to the one I had of several years ago, several decades ago, and others um, about a strike on an invasion. In my dream, I never saw an enemy combatant. I just saw people like you would call them the UN, like a conglomerate of nations that were coming together that was helping people evacuate and moving them out. So
That's what our country has installed, which Obama signed over to the UN, is that if there's any uprising, whether it be civil or or other countries, that mainly for uncivil rest, that the UN will have the right to come in and make peace,
mm,
which would be the opportunity for them to start seizing everybody's firearms and so they can get control.
mhm.
It's all about
Okay.
control.
All right. Well, anyway, appreciate you sharing that with us, and we're going to go into prayer over it right now. So,
Amen.